As you might be aware, Help Wanted 2's big trailer has just been released. Or maybe you aren't, because I only figured it out after I was recommended a reaction video to the trailer. Great job, YouTube. Anyway, we knew this game was coming both from the teaser a few months ago and the display at PAX West where some lucky ducks got to play a handful of levels. Well, now we're seeing those levels for ourselves. Assuming you didn't, see the snippets of them in YouTube videos or on the wiki. But I digress. And without further stalling, let's dive into the trailer. The trailer opens with snippets from Pizzeria Simulator, which confirms my suspicions that Help Wanted 2 will likely consist of remakes of Sister Location and Pizzeria Simulator. Like Help Wanted 1 had Fnaf 1, 2, and 3 remakes. It looks like Fnaf 4 might have not made it, but that sort of makes sense. Help Wanted 1 did have a plethora of Fnaf 4-esque levels, including fist-fighting both Nightmarian and Nightmare Fredbear, so we don't really need to go back again. The game's also looking to have a lot of Security Breach and Ruin-based levels. To no shock of anyone's, I'm sure. The Dread unit babbles in the background, by the way, but as usual, it speaks almost 85% bull and 15% exposition, so I won't recite it. Now, there is a moment in the trailer where you can hear what almost sounds like a police transponder in the background, or a woman speaking, but I wasn't able to decipher what she was saying. It then cuts to what is one of the most confusing images I've ever seen. Or at least it's confusing if you really think about it. It looks to be a carnival attraction called Fazerblast, but not Security Breach Fazerblast, and it's a security office. It's like a Fnaf Turducken. Okay, but in all seriousness, we see later in the trailer that this is part of a game where you shoot balloons and have to pistol whip encroaching plush babies. Also, you can see a Dreadbear standee in the background. Not a big deal, but I thought it was kinda cool. It then cuts to a new version of Captain Foxy's Dark Ride. This is actually pretty great news. I think the Foxy's Dark Ride was one of the coolest things in Help Wanted, and to see it come back and be in the base game, excellent choice. Looks like there's still a point ranking system too. Later on in the trailer, we see a section from the game, assumedly, that's Foxy's Wild West themed. You know, that theming that was shown off in Ruin that used to be part of the Pizzaplex until Roxy Raceway replaced it? Yeah, that theming. There's not much to say here. I really liked Foxy's original Dark Ride, so I think this one's probably going to be fun too. We then cut to an L-Chips-based minigame where you serve staff bots super tasty and super expensive fast food, specifically nachos. This too is pretty cool. This is like the type of minigame that really should be in a game about restaurants, if you think about it. Fredbear's Family Diner Dash, if you would. My assumption is that you're not just serving one staff bot, but a couple of staff bots in a row, and maybe they get faster and maybe they get more impatient. Diner Dash rules. Next up, we jump to a repair mission that I can't identify, but I think it's either part of the carousel minigame or maybe part of the Funtime Freddy level, which I'll cover later. Now, if you saw anyone discussing PAX, you're probably aware of the carousel level, as that was one of the ones that was demoed there. Now here we are seeing it in person. The gimmick being that you repair the center of a large carousel while none other than Moon creeps up, and you have to scare him off with the light. There's not too terribly much to say here, but it's really cool. It's great to see Moon getting a little more time, seeing him ducking and weaving around in a unsettling fashion. If there's one thing that the daycare attendant does well, it's move. That didn't come out sounding right. Another thing that I thought was kind of neat is that you can actually see an either toy or Funtime Foxy themed horse. So this is totally a Freddy themed carousel. There's no horses here. Almost like the little ones you'll see in FNAF 2, except much bigger. When I heard this one post-PAX, I was very excited for it, and seeing it in person, I do think it looks really cool, and I think this is one of those ones that's probably going to get a lot of the daycare attendant fandom really buzzing. But surprisingly enough, this isn't the only daycare attendant level, or surprisingly that we saw both in the trailer. There's also Intense Arts and Crafts featuring Sunny. Basically, you paint and put together paper pals while he just stands there, menacingly. In another clip, there's what sounds like an egg timer going off, so you're either under an allotted time to get a paper pal done, or you have to get multiple paper pals done. Elsewise, Sun's gonna jump you. But let me speak for everyone when I say this is a dream come true. If there was one thing that Security Breach robbed us of, it was time for googly eyes and glitter glue. But it is really good to see that both Sun and Moon get their own exclusive levels, and to have Sunny's level actually be themed appropriately to him. I mean, Moon's isn't exactly themed to him, but still carousel kitty stuff, that still fits. And even though they're technically the same character, I think it's really cool that they did a level for both, because it would have been cumbersome to mix them together, and it would have been odd to just have one. Really neat, we'll see how they play. There's also the Bonk-a-Bon level. This one was also demoed at PAX and involves you smacking Bon-Bon, Funtime Freddy's hand puppet companion, while, if I recall right, avoiding the Helpies. We do see a Helpy for a split second towards the end. Okay, moving on again, onto the Funtime Freddy level. While set up a little differently, this seems to be a remake of the sister location breaker room section, as you're working in a dark room as Funtime Freddy wanders around, and you have to lift a blowhorn and assumedly play voice recordings of Bon-Bon to ward him off. You can see that he gets just as up close and personal as in sister location though. In fact, it looks like he might get a little closer. I could definitely see this being intimidating. Now, I don't know if you still have a screen that you have to pull up and tinker around with, but if they got rid of the screen, I could see this being a very tense level. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say it wouldn't be too unlikely if the major sister location tasks, like the mini-arena springlock section and even the under-the-desk scene, returned as levels in this game. Considering that those were the nights of sister location instead of traditional office segments. The only one I almost don't expect coming back was creeping through the Funtime Auditorium, because that was already in Help Wanted 1. Moving on again, we have a peculiar level where we play a matching game against or with a very peculiar endoskeleton. Now, this level has a lot to unpack even in its small glimpse. We're sat in what looks to be the daycare basement, but I guess could also be some corner of the broken daycare from ruin, likely the basement. We are up against a Glamrock endoskeleton with a screen for a head and wires connecting it to the ceiling. When we get a match, a green checkmark appears on the screen. All good. Except there's endoskeletons creeping up that you have to flash to keep back. So you must stay on your toes, while trying to remember where these cards go. So first things first, there's a split-second glimpse of what might be the Mimic in the background, but I'm not entirely sure. The eye color matches, but slowing down the footage shows that it moves and is shaped on the bottom more like a normal Glamrock Endo. I'm not saying it's not Mimic, but I am saying that it might not be or it might be, and I don't know. Secondly, a friend of mine pointed out that this screen-headed Endo here looks a bit like Wolf's Hacks, the villain from Freddy in Space 2, the one who stole Freddy's son. Whether this is on purpose or just a result of sticking a screen slap on top of an Endo body is unclear. It's also tethered to the ceiling by wires, and this might be a reference to Tales from the Pizzaplex, Tales' book's tree of wires controlling everything, Mimic Control, Mimic 1 program, Tiger Man inside glass tube, Afton Replicant, Always Come Back, Old Daddy's Bye Bye Baby I'm Going All the Way to the Top, Trap, Lulz Hacks, Child Snatch, and Whack Job. To say a few words. More importantly, before I realized this was the basement, I assumed it was the ruined daycare, and then I thought maybe we would see Eclipse here, because you can't have enough of the daycare attendant. However, I still think we might get an Eclipse somewhere, maybe as a little cameo, and that's not just me wanting Eclipse, that's because of the Eclipse animatronic that was displayed at PAX. We might get a cameo of him. On to the next minigame. Here comes a treat. Roxy gets her own level, and it's a makeover section. Roxy looks strapped down into place with a moderately peeved look while we get to apply makeup. Likely we'll have to replicate a certain style of makeup provided on the display screen. But it would also be cool if we got like a vague list of requirements and had to style Roxy close enough to match the goal. Either way, this seems like a pretty fun concept. Actually, on second look, Roxy's body looks strangely crunched up, and after finishing, something moves above her head that we can't see, almost looking like a claw or a hand. Is it coming down to pick up her head? Or more so, is this just a living Roxy head that we're painting? That's disturbing. One of the most interesting minigames was the resuscitating Helpy one, or the Helpy repair or medical training one. Helpy is laying down seizing and you have to try and bring him back to life, give him gas, watch him foam from the mouth, repair some broken limbs, and all while Scrap Baby is hanging outside the room. So this is definitely a Pizzeria Simulator's themed level, and another repair level too. But my god, of all the Pizzeria Simulator animatronics you could have chosen for this level, this is hands down the best one. I've never shied away from the fact that I believe Scrap Baby is one of the coolest designs in Fnaf, and it only dawned on me when seeing this jump scare at the end of the trailer, which I assume is from this minigame and not from the Pizzeria Simulator office segment because she's up and about, that yeah, we're actually going to get to see this design in action, something we really didn't get to in Pizzeria Simulator. That's totally cool. And of course, I love the animatronic repair section, so it's neat to see them come back, even if seeing Helpy foaming at the mouth makes me deeply sad and seriously uncomfortable at the same time. Perhaps this is a broken neck or back Helpy getting a nice boost. There's also a clip of Glamrock Freddy that looks to be an animatronic repair, but we only see him for a few moments. Basically, they boop the nose and his mouth opens. Definitely seems like a repair section, but who knows. There is also a level with Music Man that's a little hard to make sense of. In another clip, we see this panel that shares the neon and seems to be for this minigame. It's this one with little squares and a big red button that says round 1 out of 3 and has a few spots for replays. It looks like you either play a game or complete a sequence while Music Man destabilizes in front of you on his stage. I'm not sure how it'll play, but it's pretty cool to see the DJ again, since he didn't appear in Ruin. Finally, we also got a look at a sister location office segment where Ballora spins up to one of the doors. Now this is interesting as well, because this is actually from Sister Location Custom Night. As you know, in Sister Location, the only traditional night was against Ennard until Custom Night. So either we're getting a full set of traditional Sister Location nights, or this is a custom night-themed level. No way to tell at this point, save that we get to see Ballora twirling and dancing, which is really neat. It's not as scary as the spider crawling, but it does fit in with that custom night where you hear Ballora's music creeping up outside the doors. And it's just nice to see some new animations. Okay, so that's everything we saw in the trailer. One thing not in the trailer is that there's apparently a Mr. Hippo fortune teller as well. And shocker, it's labeled as a she. A new Hippo variant? How peculiar. Inspired. So here are the confirmed levels so far. 1. Fazerblast balloon popping plush baby level. 2. Captain Foxy's pirate ride. 3. El Chip's food service. 4. The Moondrop-Go-Round. 5. Sunny's arts and crafts. 6. Bonk-a-Bon. 7. Daycare Endo flip-flop. 8. Roxy's makeover. 9. Resuscitating Helpy, 10. Untitled Glamrock Freddy level, 11. Untitled Music Man level, 12. Funtime Freddy Breaker Room level, and 13. The Sister Location Office segment. That's 13 levels alone, and most of them have varied mechanics and mostly distinct theming. Like, there's 2 shooting levels that we know of, but they're significantly different. One being a dark ride and the other involving speed and managing who's biting your ankles. And it seems like, on the whole, Help Wanted 2 is doing more gimmick-based minigame levels instead of straight-up office gameplay levels, at least from what I've seen in this trailer. And yeah, that's great. That's like 100% the best decision, as those were the highlights of Help Wanted. And likely the result of only having Sister Location and Pizzeria Simulator to replicate in this game. In general, it looks like there's more stuff to do this time around, but that's assuming that these aren't the only levels, which I'm pretty sure they can't be. Also, I can't say for certain because this is pre-release material, but it looks like the models have been cleaned up quite a bit. Help Wanted 1's models weren't bad. Well, not all of them, but these ones definitely lack that Play-Doh-entered look. But we will have to see the released game before we make a final call. I think we can also say for sure now that Help Wanted 2 is Carnival, the game that was supposed to be teased in Ruin, but then was cut with only a reference to it and some notes hidden in a cut map. There's quite a few levels based on Carnival games. There's the Moondrop-Go-Round, the Bon-Bon Smacker, and it would explain why the teaser was cut, because by time Ruin came out, Help Wanted 2 had already had its teaser revealed, so there wasn't any obligation to work in a teaser, especially when the map section got cut. Okay, wait, why are Ballora's eyes blue here? Whatever. Now for story speculation, it's too early to guess anything. At least, I hope so. But without putting pressure or expectations out there, I would say there's a good chance Help Wanted 2 will introduce a bump in the story. Help Wanted introduced Glitch Trap, Vanny, Vanessa. It was the game that transitioned the story from the Fnaf 1 to Ultimate Custom Night plot into Freddy in the Future plot. I'm not expecting a lot of story, but we might see something. Likely something to get us moving into the next big plot point, or the next big game. Please, God, no Mimic Baby. In lighter news, someone reminded me that the security puppet exists, and that maybe they'll appear in a little cameo. I hope so. They're surprisingly underutilized considering that they got a plushie and have had cameo appearances. But I'm not exactly crossing my fingers just yet. Well, the release is coming soon. Next month, that is. Open letter to Steelwool here. If you have to delay the game for any reason, do it. It's looking functional and everything, but if there's any last-minute issues, don't feel obligated to push for a release date if it doesn't work. I mean, I'm sure that really isn't in Steelwool's control. Who knows who has that say? But yeah, just throwing it out there. This doesn't have to be concrete. If something's gonna break on release, just wait. Will I be buying Help Wanted 2? Maybe. If it gets to flat mode and it's not as buggy as Help Wanted 1's flat mode, then yeah, sure. I know VR is the true experience, but I don't feel like experiencing true nausea, so yeah, no VR for me. Me and motion sickness no longer hang. In any case, Help Wanted 2 is shaping up to be a real improvement on Help Wanted from this trailer, and I can only hope that it has a smooth release. And I think the game is probably going to turn out to be a fun time no matter what. So, that's all I've got to say on the subject for now. Thank you for watching.